You open YouTube and see 5 different videos telling you to prepare for the day AI takes your job. You scroll through Instagram and a headline pops up about an AI CEO claiming there's no point in learning to code anymore because AI will do it for you. Even on Reddit, people are already discussing what it's like to date an AI. But here's what many have forgotten. We've seen this movie before. Remember the panic over the Millennium Bug when they said computers would crash and the world would end? Or the people who swore the internet would kill shopping malls? Or the ones who said TV was dead? And of course, the dreamers who promised that by 2020, we'd all be walking around with VR glasses, living in a digital world. So, is AI just the latest version of that same hype cycle? Are these wild predictions about AI replacing everything and us living on universal basic income just noise? Or are we actually standing at the start of a real technological revolution, or maybe even another bubble ready to burst? In this video, we'll answer all of that, and at the end, I'll show you where the richest people on the planet are putting their money, what that means, and where you might want to put yours. Let's dive in, and don't forget to subscribe, please. So what are the signs of a bubble, and what are the similarities between the dot-com bubble and the AI bubble? Well, bubbles always follow a pattern. First, you get a real breakthrough, a technology so powerful it feels like it could change everything. Then the money comes in. At first, it flows into a few clear winners, but soon it's chasing anything even remotely related to the trend. Prices shoot up faster than revenues, business models aren't proven, and at some point, the market stops caring about reality. That's exactly what happened with the internet in the late 90s. From 1995 to March 2000, the Nasdaq exploded almost 400%. If a company had .com in its name, people assumed it was the next Microsoft. Didn't matter if it had no profit or no product. At the peak, the Nasdaq 100 was trading at over 100 times earnings. But when reality hit, it fell almost 78% in just 31 months. Trillions in value gone, hundreds of companies wiped out. Now look at AI in 2025, and the numbers feel very familiar. Tech companies, especially the big AI players, now make up over 34% of the entire S&P 500, an even bigger chunk than during the dot-com peak. The Magnificent Seven alone, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla, are worth almost $15 trillion combined. Nvidia's valuation went past $2.5 trillion earlier this year, trading at a price-to-sales ratio above 30, which historically almost never lasts. And just like in 2000, the whole thing is fragile. Back then, the crash came after interest rate hikes, bad earnings reports, and a wave of panic. Now it can be triggered by a single tech shock. In January, when DeepSeek released a super cheap AI model that undercut the competition, Nvidia's value dropped $600 billion in one day. That's one of the biggest single-day losses any company has ever seen. It's not just stock prices either, it's the psychology. In the dot-com boom, adding .com to your name was enough to send your shares up. Today, all you have to do is put AI in a press release, and your stock can spike. Back then, venture capital poured $105 billion into internet startups in 1 year. Now, AI startups are raising similar amounts, often with billion-dollar valuations and little to no revenue. So, the similarities are clear. Valuations disconnected from reality, too much money in too few stocks, hype cycles fueled by media and FOMO, extreme volatility when shocks hit. And here's one last thing to put all of this into perspective. According to Reuters, tech now makes up a bigger share of the S&P 500 than it did at the absolute peak of the dot-com bubble. Over 34% of the index's market cap today versus about 33% in 2000. That means the AI boom isn't just matching the dot-com era. In terms of market weight, it's already bigger. For some investors, that's a sign we're living through an extraordinary technological moment. For others, it's a warning that the market has never been this concentrated, and that if AI stocks stumble, the shockwave could hit almost every corner of the market. But moving to a second chapter, the thing is not only in the numbers in the financial market. The AI narrative starts to sound a little bit exaggerated compared to the real potential it can achieve. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, recently told Bloomberg, in a few years, AI systems will be able to do basically everything humans can do. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, went even further at Computex 2024, saying AI is the single most powerful force of our lifetime. The next industrial revolution is here, and every company will be an AI company. And Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, described AI as more profound than fire or electricity. Big statements, big visions, but they raise a question that's a lot less glamorous than the conference stage. Can the real world actually keep up with the scale this technology demands? Because building bigger models is one thing. Running them every single day for billions of people is something else entirely. Also, isn't it kind of obvious that they're going to make these grand predictions because these companies are their life's work and market performance directly affects their pay? Like, the more they hype investors, the better. But take energy. Training a single large AI model can consume enough electricity electricity to power hundreds of homes for a year. Google admitted in its 2024 environmental report that its data centers used 20% more water in a single year just to cool the servers running AI workloads. Microsoft's water usage jumped 34% after scaling up infrastructure for OpenAI. A study from the University of Massachusetts Amherst found that training one cutting-edge NLP model could emit over 626,000 pounds of CO2, the equivalent of 5 cars over their entire lifetimes. And that's before counting inference, which is the day-to-day cost of actually running these systems at scale. The International Energy Agency estimates that by 2026, global data centers with AI as the main driver could consume 1,000 terawatt-hours annually. That's roughly the total electricity use of Japan. If that number keeps climbing, it won't just be an environmental debate. It will be a bottleneck for how far and fast AI can go. Then there's the chip supply chain. High-end GPUs like NVIDIA's H100 and B200 are the beating heart of this boom, but demand is so extreme that even with production ramps, lead times can stretch for months. Almost all of these chips are made by TSMC in Taiwan, and the geopolitical tension around the island adds another layer of risk. If something disrupts production, the industry can't just switch suppliers. The compute bottleneck is real, and it's fragile. Data is another limit no one likes to talk about. Companies like OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic are already running out of high-quality licensed data to train on. That's why we're seeing lawsuits from authors, media companies, and even governments. The EU's new AI Act will tighten compliance requirements, limit certain training practices, and add costs that could slow down development. The more you look at it, the clearer it becomes that the fuel for these models isn't infinite. Even the hardware and product side runs into these walls. Builder.ai promised app creation as easy as ordering a pizza, but collapsed when it turned out much of the work was being done by humans, not scalable AI. Humane's AI pin looked futuristic in promos, but failed in real life because it depended too much on the cloud, drained battery too quickly, and lagged in basic tasks. These aren't small glitches. They're signs that the infrastructure just isn't ready for mass adoption at the level the marketing promises. So while the AI story is told like an unstoppable march toward the future, it's actually heading into physical, economic, and regulatory roadblocks. And history shows that when hype collides with hard limits, the market adjusts, often brutally. But here's the plot twist. Not all bubbles are bad, and if you know how to read them, you can still make money. The dot-com crash wiped out trillions in market value, but it also left behind something far more valuable: the internet's backbone. It built the data centers, trained the talent, and shaped the consumer behavior that allowed companies like Amazon and Google to grow into trillion-dollar empires. Because no matter how many sensationalist predictions were wrong, the internet still exists, and you are using it now. The same could happen with AI. Even if valuations collapse, the research, computing infrastructure, and AI-powered applications being built today could fuel decades of innovation. The real challenge is figuring out whether you're buying into the next Amazon or into one of the hundreds of companies that vanished without a trace when the music stopped. Back in the dot-com days, the people who made real money weren't just the ones betting on every shiny new website. They were the ones who either built companies that actually survived, like Amazon and eBay, or got in early, sold at the top, and walked away before the music stopped. And then there were the picks and shovels guys, companies like Cisco and Sun Microsystems, selling the hardware and infrastructure every single startup needed, no matter who won or lost. Fast forward to today, and the AI game is playing out the same way. Bloomberg broke it down perfectly. The picks and shovels now are NVIDIA's GPUs, TSMC making those chips, Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS selling the cloud power, and even the power companies building data centers. If AI is the gold rush, these guys are the ones selling the gear to the miners, and they get paid whether the miners strike gold or not. But here's the trap a lot of people are falling into. There's a difference between AI beneficiaries and AI storytellers. Beneficiaries are actually making money from AI right now. NVIDIA, Broadcom, Supermicro Computer, even certain utilities. Storytellers, they just sprinkle AI into earnings calls and press releases to ride the hype. Guess which ones will collapse first when the hype fades. So how do you play this without getting wrecked? This is the playbook in 3 steps. First, use diversification. You can apply strategies like the barbell created by Taleb. On one side, keep your high-risk AI bets, NVIDIA, quality AI software plays, maybe even an AI ETF. On the other side, balance it with stuff that's boring but safe, treasuries, dividend stocks, real estate investment trusts. That way, if AI takes a hit, you're not watching your your whole portfolio vanish. Second, separate your timelines. If you're trading AI stocks, treat it like what it is, a short-term, high-volatility bet. Have an exit plan. Don't turn it into a long-term hold just because you don't want to admit you're down. Keep your actual long-term investments in proven businesses and real assets. Third, be critical and pay attention to what the owners of big tech are actually doing, not just what they're saying on stage. In the past year, several high-profile tech executives have been quietly cashing out large amounts of stock while the AI hype is still hot. Jeff Bezos sold around $8.5 billion worth of Amazon shares in early 2024, his first major sale since 2021. Satya Nadella, Microsoft's CEO, sold about $285 million worth of stock at the end of 2023. Even Jensen Huang, the face of Nvidia's meteoric rise, sold hundreds of millions in shares during 2024 while the company was hitting all-time highs. And stretched they are. The S&P 500's price-to-earnings ratio is hovering around 27 to 28, well above its long-term average of about 16-17. That doesn't mean a crash is guaranteed, but it does mean stocks are expensive by historical standards, especially when so much of that valuation is concentrated in a handful of AI-driven names. That's why some of the best investors in the world, like Warren Buffett, aren't rushing to buy at these levels. Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on a record cash pile over $189 billion, waiting for better prices and clearer opportunities. Buffett's approach is simple. It's better to have cash ready when the market gives you a fat pitch than to swing at every shiny thing. So while AI might be the future, this moment might be less about going all in and more about building your war chest. Take your profits when you have them, keep your powder dry, and wait for the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around every year. That's how you survive the bubble and have the cash to own the winners that emerge after it bursts.